For today's cup of coffee, I had asked oldest kid earlier today. Yes, I drew your brother in on this. Mm-hmm. And the question was, when I say the word Halloween, what images first come to mind? And his first was pumpkins. I said, okay, other than that. And he said, spiders and bats. And I thought, okay, let's roll with that. So, you know.
All right. Yeah.
Bats, we posted the link to the bat video from several months ago, a few cups back. So if you didn't watch that.
That was a...
Yeah.
It was a thing.
And for that to be spontaneous, I mean, honestly, that was pretty damn funny, even if we say so. Spiders, I respect the spiders as long as they're not in my space. When they get in my space, that's no. Shoes work very well. I've had years of experience stomping with spiders.
I can already tell you why people are afraid of spiders is because they're weird looking and the way that they move. It's just so, yeah.
Well, how about the bats? What is your theory about why do people dislike bats?
I think it's because it's some random flying animal. And that can possibly get you.
Yeah. Now, there's a difference between a fear of something, there is a healthy fear of something, and an irrational fear, you know, when it goes into the realm of phobia. So we're going to be discussing a little bit of both of those.
I mean, mine was a healthy fear because I was scared that it was going to fly on me and bite me with rabies. That's a healthy fear.
I think so. So we have from the website that's called Squirrels at the Feeder.
Squirrels?
What a cool name for a website. And this is called Fear of Bats, which is Chiroptophobia. I'm proud of me. I got that one correct. And why are people scared? And the article is written by David. David, I would have definitely given your last name.
Just David.
Hey, he's got the squirrels at the feeder, so he didn't have time to give his last name. And he says many people are scared of bats, and they think that bats are disease-ridden bloodsuckers that hide under the cover of darkness, so you can't see them coming. This fear of bats is driven by a lack of understanding into the true nature of the animals. So he says, let's take a closer look at why people are terrified of bats and see if we can't clear up some misunderstandings. When people have a complete phobia about bats, that is called chiroptophobia. Okay. And while this condition is very real and painful for those who are suffering from it, this is not the focus of this article. I did find one. There are articles that if you have true phobias, and we're not making fun of anybody who has a phobia.
Yeah, no, we're just talking about it.
You know, I've got this thing about the clowns and the balloons. Now that's the clowns. The phobia has geared down a lot over the years, but as far as the balloons, no. If somebody comes in the room with a balloon, I will leave.
Or you'll be like, take that out. Now.
Yeah, that or it's like hands clasped over ears.
Yeah.
And now that is a true phobia. And I have worked around balloons before. And after several hours, I was okay, but it was not a long-lasting treatment. So it wasn't. That was years ago, and it's like it came back. My children did not have balloons at their parties or they had them outside away from me. All right, so we're going to be looking at the lack of understanding which produces the fear of bats. And balloons. And David says that the Mayan civilization is one of the earliest to have developed a mythology surrounding bats. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. And I should have looked this one up. Kamazataz, also known as that's a different culture. Death Bat God was a figurative idol that was expressed throughout Mayan artwork and culture dating back as far as 2000 BC. So we know that even the Mayans had developed a less than stellar opinion of bats, going so far as to associate them with death.
How long ago was that? 2003?
Yeah, really. That too. That was the Quetzalcoatl thing that was in Was that 2012 was when that was supposed to be?
Yeah.
I think they're right. I think that our Earth got eaten by the snake. When we examine the behavior of most bat species, it's not surprising that early humans developed such an off-putting opinion of them. Bats prefer to live in the shadows or the dark. They swoop down from the skies during times that we cannot see them well, and they're nowhere to be found in daylight hours, unless, of course, you wander into a cavern and find a colony of them roosting on the ceiling. Now that would be unnerving. Well, that's true. A barn will have them too, but not all barns. Belfries, the church belfries. However, not all mythology surrounding bats is necessarily negative. And there is a Native American folklore about Ivaki, the goddess, that's often depicted as a bat and associated with sleep and dreams. And according to this myth, Ivaki is responsible for taking the sun out of a jar every morning and putting it back every evening, contributing to the routine of the operation of the cosmos. That's pretty really cool. I like that. And even still, Ivaki is shrouded in a dark, nightish aura that smacks of disguise and elusivity. Now, see, I wouldn't think of that. I would think of it as more as mystery and intrigue.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of perception how people have an understanding of the dark.
I guess so.
And bites. Being bitten by a bat is something that people fear, but is not something they should be worried about. While bats do bite humans, it is almost always in self-defense. And it's hard to
Or they're rabid.
Well, it is hard to put an exact number on how many people get bitten by bats, but some numbers from the city of Philadelphia helps put things in perspective. Over a period of 5 years, the city had about 500 reports of bat bites compared to 6,900 reports of bites from cats and dogs.
There you go.
So it's a very rare thing.
Yes.
The most common way people get bitten by a bat is when they try to catch them by grabbing it in their hands. Who would do that?
Who
would do that? And this typically happens when a bat gets trapped inside a house and the homeowner tries to handle the situation. Other instances of bites occur when people are handling or trying to release a sick bat they found on the ground. Who would do that without training? You would, yeah, it would be you. Bats will not actively seek you out to bite you. Most bats eat small flying insects or fruits and seeds and do not see humans as edibles.
See?
And there is a wonderful YouTube channel, or at least that's where I'm from, called Mega Batty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the flying foxes down in Australia.
Yeah, there's...
and they are adorable.
On Dirty Jobs, actually, there's this woman who was like a foster home for bats.
Was it just our kind of bats, or
yeah,
was it the fruit bats?
It was like our kind of bats.
Okay.
Basically, if they had some sort of birth defect, or if they were old or injured in some sort of way, she would take care of them.
Yeah, we would do that.
And of course, if they got better, she would release them.
Yeah. But now, a lot of times when people are handling bats, they have to have different shots and stuff so that they don't catch diseases.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like the rabies things and stuff. Disease. Bats are associated with dangerous diseases such as rabies, and that scares people. Mm-hmm. To be fair, the CDC says that most cases of rabies in humans between 1997 and 2006, that was, from bats. So that can cause you to be... But it doesn't say how many cases. Okay, there it is. It says, on the other hand, in that 10-year period, there were only 19 cases of rabies in the United States.
So there we go.
19 out of how many million?
Right. So, that's rare.
Yeah. Put it another way, there are about 2 cases of rabies from bats per year. That's pretty, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Here's a look at all the reported rabies cases in the United States that occurred as a result from contact with bats between 1951 and 2015, along with the method of exposure. And bats can carry other diseases than rabies, regardless of what disease people are concerned about. The overreaching guidance is the same. Let's see, I was looking at it. There we go. I got lost in my thoughts. I didn't take my Stratera today. I'm sorry.
God.
First, do not attempt to handle a bat.
Unless you are trained.
It does not matter if you're trying to help an injured bat or are trying to get a bat out of your bedroom. Do not attempt to handle a bat. Now, there are times, don't try to touch it, but that's why anybody should have
throw a towel on top of it.
Yes, there's reasons why everybody needs a rather large fishing net.
How are you going to get it out without it getting caught?
Oh, it can work its way out. Seriously, that would be.
I've had a bat fly at me before.
Well, we had that one in the house.
Okay, so twice. I was outside, like, throwing something up in the air. Like, this was recently back in the summer, and it was this bat flying around, and I threw it up, like, it was getting dark, so I threw it up, and then it started going down with it.
Oh, no. So it's chasing the ball or something?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, my God.
It was trying to play with you.
Yeah, but I'm like, oh, please please don't bite me.
Maybe he thought it was a UFO. In Bat World,
I don't know.
It was a
chasing
UFO.
It, though. He was chasing it.
Anyhow,
if it was a real thing, it would have been a very large meal for him.
Well, I don't think it was that. Like I said, he was chasing the UFO. There's always this fear as far as bats being bloodsuckers, and that who knows what that is. That came from Hollywood. You know it did.
Actually, no. There is a type of bat that does actually drink blood, and it can't. But that's.
Yes, that's
very rare.
Central and South America.
Yeah, so...
And those are what they call the vampire bats.
Yeah.
But the animals are usually sleeping, and they don't hurt the animals. I don't know if it's like leeches or something like that they've got a natural form of painkiller when they bite. But it's just these little tiny drops of blood. I've seen them on... some of these shows that shows these things.
Yeah, what they do, they sort of poke a hole, and almost like how, like, you prick your finger to test your blood sugar or whatever.
Right.
And it just drops, and it
just
sticks its tongue out.
Right. They lick the blood. They don't suck the blood like the vampires and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's like cats drinking water.
Yeah. It's like people get all up in the air about certain things. Some people, you'll like this one, think bats are simply flying rats. And since rats are nasty, then bats must be as well.
No, they're not rats. Rats are not nasty. They're actually one of the cleanest animals out there.
Well, you can help dispel that myth here. The good news is that bats and rats have very little in common. Bats are not rodents like rats, as they lack the constantly growing front incisors. Bats also tend to avoid humans when possible, while rats thrive in our presence. The only thing rats and bats have in common is that they are both nocturnal and are about the same size and sometimes live in trees. It says if it makes you feel better, bats are much more like sugar gliders than rats.
Yeah.
Now that's a neat comparison. I think that was really nice that he reframed that like that.
And sugar gliders can't fly like bats can at all.
Oh, sugar gliders are adorable.
They're adorable, but they can't fly like bats. They can't flap. What they do, they sort of jump off of something and expand their arms.
And
it's just a parachute type of thing.
They are very difficult to take care of. They're very fragile. And it's like, that is not something that really, as far as a house pet.
And as far as rats being, like, dirty, no. They have some, like cats, they groom themselves very often. And that keeps them clean.
Right.
And it's not usually them themselves. It's always something that is on them, like a bug or flea or tick or something that has the disease.
Well, there's a large difference between rats that are living like in a sewer someplace and rats that are pets.
Yeah.
So,
but like domestic rats, they're very clean, disease free for the most part, unless they get sick or something like that, which is normal. You just give them medication.
Sure, it's like any other animal.
Now, if it's one of those rats from New York, heck yeah, you better be careful of those. They're mean too.
When I worked at Sears, we had these, those huge green dumpsters, and I would hear some of the guys that worked back there on the back on the loading dock talk about the rats, and I thought, how how big can they be? And so
They're huge.
I went out there one day and they're, it's like, oh, yes, you get to play with the crusher, because I was in display working with things. And so I didn't get to do that. And when I punched the button, that thing ran out of there, and it was as big as a cat.
They're huge.
And I did the girly thing, standing on one leg going, yee! I did do that. That was many years ago, but it was like, no. I mean, it looked like a wharf rat. It truly did. It was horrifying.
Yeah, they're huge.
So
you don't want to mess with them.
No.
But still, most of the time.
That's not a pet.
No, well, I mean, domestic rats, like fancy rats, they can get pretty big, but they can't get that big.
It was bad. Now, another thing that freaks people out about bats is because they usually come out at night.
Mm-hmm. So you can't really see them. That's the only thing that freaked me out, was the fact that I couldn't see that it was
right.
I couldn't see it properly. I was like, oh God, where the fuck is...
Well, that triggered a primal fear on something like that.
Yeah.
So if somebody is already afraid of the dark and then there are sudden movements, that's going to increase the anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing about bats and sudden motions is that bats are aerial acrobats, and that they can turn on a dime and fly at incredible speeds. So, yeah, if you're afraid of the dark, then bats might freak you out even more. Yeah. And it says this is one of those crazy situations that you can actually make worse when you try to solve it. The easiest way to deal with being afraid of the dark is to carry a flashlight set on high, or to stay in lit areas like under a light pole. The problem is that light will attract moths, and moths are one of the favorite foods of bats.
Yeah.
So in other words, if you're a chicken, stay in the house.
Pretty much.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought it was pretty cool too.
Don't try to pet the bats. Unless it's a fruit bat and you're trained.
Or if it's someone that actually, like, that rehabs bats.
That would be a cool thing. I mean, to have the training to be able to take care of those animals. Mm-hmm. So
I have a lot of respect for them.
Sure. And then the other one, spiders.
Actually, tarantulas are actually very docile. And they'll warn you if they don't want to be picked up. Any spider will warn you before if they don't want to be messed with.
I hate the warning. I stay far away from them. He's looking at me funny.
And actually, the more colorful of tarantulas, the more venomous they are.
That
and
doesn't
deadly.
surprise me. Oh.
Because anything, but the ones that you get in like PetSmart or whatever,
right?
Those things won't kill you at all. They're just large and scary and hairy and But they'll actually raise their little front legs up, be like, "Don't touch me," if they don't want to be touched.
So they wouldn't have to worry about it with me. I mean, seriously. And so this comes from a website called The Conversation, and why are we afraid of spiders? And this is by Chris Buddle. He's the associate professor at McGill University. And he actually has an invested interest in arachnophobia, the fear of spiders, because he has it. And because he's a spider expert. Actually, he's the expert. His daughter is an arachnophobe. That's got to be a very terse relationship.
Yeah.
Daddy be sitting there studying the spiders and daughter climbing on the walls to get away from the spiders.
Yeah, pretty much.
That could be amusing. Anyhow, according to the American Psychiatric Association, phobias affect more than 1 in 10 people in the U.S., and of those individuals, up to 40% of phobias are related to bugs, including spiders. Spiders are not a bug. Mice, snakes, and bats. So, why do people fear spiders? And can they do something to control the fears? Psychologists believe that one reason people fear spiders is because of some direct experience with the arachnids, and that it causes fear in them. Hey, it's late. I've had a rough day. And this is and this is known as the conditioning view of the arachnid. And that happens quite often. It's like somebody has a traumatic experience with whatever it is, and it sort of imprints on the brain, and it's very, you have to work that. A lot of people don't even know that they have that So I'll not do shop talk right now. In 1991, Graham Davy.
Hi, welcome to my TED Talk.
You really at City University, London, ran a study to understand more about this view. He interviewed 118 undergraduate students about their fears of spiders. About 75% of the people sampled were either mildly or severely afraid of spiders. Of these, most were female. Now, this is where they have to put a disclaimer these days. A disclaimer. This gender bias in arachnophobia has been supported by subsequent research.
Yeah.
Why would you have to put it? Oh my God, we live in a crazy world. And it says there was also an effect from family, and those people fearful of spiders reported having a family member with similar fears, but the study was unable to separate genetic factors from environmental ones. And what is surprising is that Davy found that arachnophobia wasn't the result of specific spider trauma, which means there was no support of the conditioning view. So what makes spiders so terrifying? Surely it must be a threat of being bitten. And David looked at those issues too, and turns out that it's not so much a fear of being bitten, but rather the seemingly erratic movements of spiders and their legginess. Davy states, animal fears may represent a functionally distinct set of adaptive responses which have been selected for during the evolutionary history of the human species. Now that sentence made no sense, but anyhow. This was interesting because the choices that were given to the participants for their reasons for disliking spiders included legginess, sudden movement, speediness, hairiness, crawliness, size, skin contact, and other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the time that the wolf spider was on my face.
Yeah, that's enough to freak someone out.
And it was large enough when I slapped it off, because I was asleep. Mm-hmm. I slapped it off. It was large enough that I heard it hit the bedclothes.
Yeah.
That woke me up.
Did you know that jumping spiders are actually very friendly too? Because of their size, like they don't live long anyway.
No, not around me. They don't.
No, but they're actually really cute because they got these really big eyes up front. Like seriously, they're so cute and they act adorable too. It's just like when you see them, like from far away, you're like, oh shit. But no, they honestly do act adorable and they make okay pets as well.
They're fascinating to watch videos of. And it's like I will view them from a distance outside.
I've actually had a jumping spider like crawl on me.
Yeah,
and I'm like, hello.
Like I said, that's entirely too close. I respect them. I don't want one as a pet.
I don't want one as a pet either, but yeah, I'm not gonna kill them immediately.
A criticism of Davy's works is that perhaps conditioning cannot be so easily dismissed because the spider trauma event may have occurred during childhood and a specific spider event may be buried deep within the memories. Okay, well, that's just supporting what I said, even though I had not read that. But anyhow, I'd be an educated idiot. In 1997, Peter Morris and his colleagues at the University of, I'm not even going to try that, tried to look into this. Not surprising, if you give kids a list of things that might be scary to them, the vast majority check off things like not breathing, getting hit by a car, bombs, fire, or burglars as quite important. Interestingly, if you give them a free option to tell researchers what things they fear most, both boys and girls report spiders as their top fear.
Yeah.
And I think that's because that's one of the first things that comes to their mind.
I used to play with Granddaddy Longlegs a lot when I was little.
Yeah, well, those are cool.
Yeah, even though they're the most venomous spider out there, but because of how small their mouths are, they can't bite.
Well, and it says
humans.
That Morris finds that the kids were most fearful of spiders and that they could relate that fear to specific events. So perhaps conditioning is the pathway to arachnophobia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're talking about genes or environment. And it says before they can make sure that conditioning is the main reason, they need to ensure that genetic factors are not involved. In 2003, John Hametta at the Virginia Institute for Psychiatric and Behavioral Genetics and his colleagues conducted twin studies to tease apart genetic factors. Identical twins have identical DNA but tend to live in different environments in adult life, which allows researchers to find out how genes affect behavior. When Hemeta recorded the responses of twins to fear-relevant images, which included like spiders and snakes, compared to fear-irrelevant images like circles and triangles, statistical analysis of the results revealed that genetic influences were substantial, which means that arachnophobia is inheritable. You need not necessarily experience spiders to be fearful of them. And I would pose a question on that. If it was not a matter of learned response from adult and or parents.
It can be. Because
parents love to put their fears into their children's.
Absolutely they do.
And needlessly so. So if you have parent or, guardian or whoever it is, significant adult figure that has fear of spiders, snakes, bats, life, they're going to put that child, that's why you've got a lot of New York kids for real.
Did you catch what I said?
No, I missed that last one. So
I even said it.
Oh, well. And it's like, if you've got a fear, find out if it's a valid fear. To sit there and go, baby, you see that snake over there? That's poison one. Don't get near it.
If it's like a corn snake, be like, come here.
Yeah, learn which ones you can and which you can't.
Here, my child.
So,
I wouldn't mind having a corn snake.
We had a corn snake. We did.
Yeah, I was too little.
Yeah, well, don't use small ashtrays for a watering thing with corn snakes.
Did it die with the corn?
It did. Well, they didn't have PetSmart in those days.
Yeah, they did.
And apparently, no, they didn't. Not around here. They did not.
Around here.
Anyhow, to this gentleman's dissatisfaction, arachnophobia is here to stay. But it may be a simple technique to reduce the fear. Now, see, this is bad. He said these bugs. They're not bugs. They're arachnids. That makes me question this entire article.
No, but the thing is, spiders are commonly put into the bug category because they are technically an insect, but they are not. They're
arachnids. They've got 8 legs instead of 6.
Some crabs are actually in the category of arachnid.
Well, I can understand that, but I thought it had to do with the 8 legs. And it has to do, I don't know, I think the segments of the body and stuff like that.
Let me look up how many legs.
I would have to go back in there. Anyhow, in 2013, Paul Siegel at the State University of New York and his colleague published a study that helped volunteers lessen their arachnophobia. They split the volunteers into phobic and non-phobic groups based on simple spider fear tests. After a week of doing the test, both of the groups were given exposure to images of flowers or spiders, but the exposure was for a very short time. And the idea that people can't recognize the images consciously, but it also has an effect on their subconscious. When the spider fear tests were carried out on both of these groups again, those who feared spiders had become less afraid. And while general conclusions are hard to draw from the literature on arachnophobia, arachnologists, try to do that one at 6 o'clock in the morning, like this man, should rejoice at the results of Hemeta's study.
Okay.
So and I think something that is hopefully reducing some of the arachnophobia, like the little cute dancing spider, the one that's rainbow spider, was that the name of it?
I think so.
And that you show that not all of them are black widows, not all of them are venomous.
Yeah.
And show the true animal and the different forms of the animal. I think that can help reduce the anxiety on a lot of these things.
Crabs are okay, so crabs, while they're not arachnids, they are
they're crustaceans.
They're crustaceans, but they're sort of related to arachnids.
Right. Well, and I would say that has to do probably with the environment in which they live and the density of the exoskeleton.
And how many legs there are.
Do they not have 8 legs also?
They have 10 legs.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
But the front ones that we see the most, the claws, whatever,
right.
Those are useless. Those are literally just the claws, but those are technically legs.
Are they? I thought that those were just used for tearing food.
I'm pretty sure that those are used for legs.
And I think it's another reason that when people have a fear of spiders and different things like
How
that,
many legs do crabs have?
that can include things like hermit crabs, because they, in some ways, the movements are similar, the body style is similar.
Crabs have 10 paired legs, of which the front 2 are usually claws.
Okay.
So, swimming crabs such as flying crab have 2 flattened back legs used as paddles for swimming.
Well, that's neat.
Many crabs can only walk sideways, but not all of them.
Well, and I think it's just that, where a lot of people don't live in an environment where they're going to, encounter crabs.
There are people that literally have phobia of crabs, just like spiders.
Well, that's why I think, like the little hermit crabs and stuff like that.
I had multiple hermit crabs. I loved them.
Around here, like crawdads?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, when I was a kid, I did not want to touch crawdad.
They're just like little lobsters.
I know they are, but I was a small child, and those pinchers to small kid eyes were enormous.
I got pinched by hermit crabs multiple times, but that didn't drive me away from them.
Well, no, because it's you knew how to deal with it properly.
Sort of. I was
so.
Young. But seriously, if I just worked with spiders more, I'm pretty sure my fear would just completely diminish, considering I already...
We've got a front porch
scared.
Full of them.
Yeah, but I don't want to mess with those. I want to mess with them in a contained environment.
You want an exotic spider. You don't want a common porch spider.
I want like a jumping spider.
You could go befriend some of those.
I need a proper habitat for him inside.
Oh, no.
A proper enclosure, along with the tarantula.
They're wild animals. Leave them in their habitat.
I will say, tarantulas, though, when they molt, that I think the molt is more terrifying than the actual spider. Because it's like, ugh.
No. Not in the house, no. Anyhow, so hopefully we have explained some of the fears of spiders and bats.
Mm-hmm.
And the imagery at Halloween is just fun because, again, it is a matter of facing fears.
Yeah.
And, find out why you're afraid. What is it that you really fear? Is it the bat, or is it the possibility of disease?
For me, it's the possibility of disease. It's not the actual bat itself. As long as I knew that if it was like possums, where they're just bluffers and they don't actually carry disease all that often, I'm perfectly fine with it.
It's just because you've been petting the porch possum. Yes.
Yeah, they're bluffers. I always knew that they were bluffers, though.
So when I was little, because my hair is very curly, extremely curly, which is why I keep it braided most of the time, they used to tell me that a bat would get caught in my hair. Seriously. And it's one of those,
that's mental scarification.
Oh, God, welcome to Appalachia, baby.
This is why I need to get out of here. I need to move to, like, Connecticut or something.
Oh, yeah, you go up there with that is a totally different world up there.
Like in the middle of nowhere, Connecticut, like wooded Connecticut.
It's going to be the trees. We got trees outside.
Yeah.
Well, you go right on, baby. You experience
You coming
the world.
with me?
Oh, hell no.
I'm dragging your ass along with me with my worldly travels.
I have mountains right here. And it's like people, when I open my mouth and they hear the language that I speak, they're like, "You're not from here, are you?" No, I'm not.
Even my own therapist, like, she heard me and I'm like, I don't sound like I come from here, do I? And she's like, "No, you don't."
Well, and that, like I said, that has to do with the hearing impairment.
That's what I told her. I told her that I sort of had to make my own dialect, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
It works for you quite well. So, if you all have had encounters with paranormal, supernatural experiences with UFOs, aliens, cryptids, bats, and spiders, and creepy crawlies, and local regional family myths,
yeah,
maybe your great uncle had his face chewed off by a spider or a bat.
Or maybe they got killed by a spider or had a limb taken off by a spider that bit them.
Yeah, that could happen too. Send us an email at cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com.
What is your trauma with spiders?
Yes, that is a different channel. We're not here
This is this channel.
Diagnose.
We want to hear your horror stories. We want to trauma dump on us as far as the thing.
But as far as we're not used to diagnose, treat, not medical advice.
No. We're not going to do that. We're just going to read them.
No, I mean, seriously, if somebody, that's...
But we're going to do it respectfully.
Sure. If somebody wanted to share something like that and let us use that in a video, that would be wonderful. But if they just wanted to share that because they needed to know that somebody gave a damn...
Yeah, they can do that.
We're open to that, too. Mm-hmm. So, if you have spent your day not having someone tell you that you're loved... You've now had someone tell you that you are loved.
You're loved and cared for.
Absolutely.
Cared about.
Yeah. So, thank you for sharing your time, sharing coffee with us, listening to me stumble and stammer again. Yeah. It's been a rough day. Yeah. It's been a rough day.
We've been up.
Prayers are always appreciated.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We need those.
Always. So, we'll see you all on the next cup.
Yeah.
Bye.
Subscribe.